Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Rise of the Tomb Raider Survivor difficulty video walkthrough. This is Prison Break. We just broke off that pipe and we're burying it into this wall so that we can somehow enter this side storage room that has a bow in it and some rope. Doesn't make much sense, pretty much a Deus Ex Machina, but we'll go with it because it's a video game and video games are fun. So there's the recurve bow, there's a nice level up, and we're doing one of my favourite missions in the game. So what you might have noticed, this is the 6th video in this walkthrough. We've done no combat. None at all, you know? We fought a couple of people in that first wilderness part, we fought a bear, then we took out some of those Soviet guys in that installation a little bit, and that's it. That's all we've done. And that's one of the things you're going to notice in this game, and it's another one of the stranger directions that they've taken that some people are going to really like and some people aren't going to like, depending on your proclivities. I like combat. I think the combat in this game is wonderful, but there's not enough of it. There's a couple of sections later on where they string the combat together, and it's like, yeah, this is what I thought it was going to be like. But for the most, you're going to spend a good 80% exploring, climbing, and picking shit up, and then the other percentage is going to be the combat. And I have no idea why it's like that. In the last game, it was almost reversed, because there was that much combat, and I didn't see any reviewers or any people saying that there was too much combat, it got repetitive. But maybe they did, you know, there's always going to be somebody who has that kind of opinion. But even the original Tomb Raiders had a lot of combat. It controlled like shit. At the time it was fine because we didn't know any better, but there was still a lot of combat. A lot of combat that people tried to skip because there was a lot of it. And then you skip forward to this game, and they focused on this tomb stuff, this external stuff, this exploration stuff, and these moments of quiet calm and exploration, almost too much. And I found myself being like, when do we fight? And it was a shock to my system, because I think that the definitive edition of Tomb Raider, or just the reboot, I think it did it perfectly. It had just the right amount of distracting stuff before the next gunfight. It never lingered on anything, it never lasted too long on any one thing, and then you were back in a fight, and then you were back doing something different. I think they worked a perfect harmony with it. This might be 100% my memory fogging here, because I've not played that first game in a while. I've got the definitive edition on the Xbox One, because I got it on Games with Gold, and I'm definitely going to be downloading it and giving it a try, because I haven't played it in a while, and I'm curious to see how it stands up having played this. But this game is so different, which is why missions like this really stand out, because I get to kill things. And my psychologist, if I had one, would probably be like, Chris, you shouldn't want to kill things. But the game room is like, that's what we do, son! But I've got a really cool pattern here. So, choke the first guy, arrow the next two, get your poison arrows on, wait for the guy to come out of this door. Once he's out, hit him in the head with whatever tool you want to use. Then from there, we're going to use the poison arrows on these guys huddled up here to kill both of them silently. Then we're going to go across this roof, kill this guy on the roof, and then we're going to poison arrow the guys in front of him, and then the only thing left to do is to choke out the person inside this building. So, get this guy from behind. They're going to move into a new position just over there, start their dialogue tree. We're going to hit them with our poison arrow, silent and deadly. Don't know why it said 3 stealth kills then when there was only 2 people, but it does that. And then inside here is one guy with his back to us, and you've just done it. That entire sequence done. How cool was that? And that's where this game really shines for me. But the problem is, you're not going to see a sequence like this for another like 2.5 hours. Because it's weird. It's so strange. And I don't understand the pacing at all. On one hand, I respect it because it's different. It's really different to what I was expecting, and it's really different to a lot of games. A lot of games aren't prepared to let you do shit that's not blowing up all the time for large periods of time, yet this game is. And I've got to give it its props. But when I start noticing that there's not enough combat, that tells you that there's something wrong, because I'm the first person to tell you that the combat's gone on for too long. Because once again, balance. The beauty is in the detail of the balance. If you can make something feel just the right length and make me want more, you've achieved it. But you have to give me more. You can't just, linger it on the edge of a stick and hold it out of my reach and then pull the stick away, because then you've lost that momentum that you'd earned. And I think that's one of the issues that this game has. It is strange. There is way more running away from pre-programmed collapsing bollocks and helicopters strafing a building while you hold forward on an analog than there is combat in this game. And I find it really confusing.
What is he doing?
In the old Tomb Raiders, they had a pretty heady mix of occasional combat, platforming, puzzle solving, exploration, swimming. Never forget the swimming on those games, because it was always tricky to do just because of the execution of it. Doing anything in those games was tricky because the controls were so very archaic, but at the time it was innovative, wasn't it? And I'll never forget that first sequence on Tomb Raider 1 when that big cave opens, that initial massive yawning doorway, and there's those wolves that you have to shoot with your double guns. Because it was hard. Those games were scary too. That's one of the things that you don't appreciate when you play something when you're younger, is their ability to create a capacity of fear in you. And it's a fear that doesn't really go away, because it's an irrational fear, it's a childhood fear. And I reckon if I put Tomb Raider on now, and I walked into that opening area where those wolves are, I would have a little bit of anxiety in my stomach playing it, even though I'm a grown-ass man now, just because my body remembers the way that it intimidated me when I was younger. And it's the same when I play like the old Resident Evils, or when I play Castlevania 64 and I'm being chased through the garden maze by that Frankenstein with the chainsaw and the dogs. It used to scare me when I was younger, and it's that kind of primal fear that you don't forget, which is weird, but it's there. It's like muscle memory. It's like some kind of muscled fear. And if you think of stuff like when you were younger, you were afraid of the dark, maybe, or you were afraid of whatever it was that you were afraid of, but that's one of those ones that kind of leaves you. Yet I have this ingrained trepidation towards certain aspects of games that essentially give a fear that is never earned. It was just the way I was when I was younger, which I think is a fascinating thing to discuss. But we're on some action here, boys, and we've been waiting a while to get to this, so you wanna cherish it, as we took an AK off a guy, and it's going to be what we use. So the AK is okay when you've got it centered like this. The moment you fire, you'll notice the reticle flares and the gun's not accurate at all. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be doing the standard third-person trick of moving towards the corner of cover, but not being in cover. If you're in cover, you're doing it wrong. And you're going to have to fight the game, because there are moments where Lara will try and go into cover, and there'll be moments where it stops you from being able to move, and you can see this. It's visibly jarring. It makes it very tricky to move around edges. And that's not mentioning just how much you have to move the analog to make her move. She doesn't really do small movements, which you have to feel it. You can't really see that, but if you know what I mean, you'll spot it immediately. But I think it's down to playing a lot of games that have a lot of different dead zones on the analogs to dictate your movement, and just a lot of different movement styles. But use the barrel just then to mitigate that fight, set some people on fire. The fire in this game is probably the best looking fire I've ever seen. I absolutely adore it. There's a little scripted event here that's going to introduce us in a moment to crafting explosives. And this is really useful, especially if you combine it with the ability to get a bigger radius on this explosion. This grenade will knock people down, but it doesn't seem to kill. I'm going to finish them off with the assault rifle, because if you push forward, you're going to trip a spawn. Additionally here, there's 2 more guys coming just at this doorway, so try and clip them, but be very careful. He's going to push forward, there's your headshot. There is one more dude that you're going to see as I push into this room, but before I do so, I'm going to pick up some loot. Ooh, that's something I've not mentioned that's... I think it's a bad thing. Having an inventory that you can fill. In a game where one of the mechanics, which is quite predominant and one of the more enjoyable features, is its looting, you should never ever give you a full item capacity, and if you do have a maximum amount of items to hold, you've got to make it big. You can't have it 10 or 15, because then it gets to the point where you get excited to pick something up and you're looking forward to those endorphins that you get for that reward, that carrot on the stick, and then you can't do it. And there is nothing more underwhelming than going up to something, seeing a treasure or a chest or something and wanting to pick it up, and then you can't. And I 100% understand that it's intended for game balance, but this game is wonderfully unbalanced anyway, because half of the abilities you get in this game are incredibly powerful and turn you into an absolute killing machine. And they haven't limited those, yet they limit picking shit up. And picking pointless shit up, like the pelts and the wood. You can only carry 30 wood. The only thing wood does is make fires and occasionally help certain resources. That's all it does. It helps you make arrows. You can carry 45 arrows. There's no difference between having 5 arrows and 45 arrows, because it's still going to kill somebody instantly if you shoot them in the face. And if you control the game correctly, you can do that relatively simply. So the conceit of balance just really doesn't work, and all they're doing is they're making the player feel disappointed because he can't pick up the shit. And Yakuza is great at that, if you've ever played Yakuza, because here is a game that has 1,000,001 consumables and 1,000,001 things to pick up and discover what they do, because none of them are explained, and then it gives you an inventory where you can only carry 15 of them, and then you can't do anything when you've got a full inventory because the game is so archaically designed. It's absolutely mind-boggling how they don't think about these things. And it baffles me to death as we use the base camp here to get some stuff. What can we get? Extra assault rifle ammunition, which uses cloth and it uses a special hide. But it seems so pointless when you're picking scrap up to have a limit to how much scrap you can pick up. And you know they're not going to do the whole, well, she can only carry so much, so it's the conceit of realism. Then why can she carry 20 fucking guns? Why can she run around in a vest in hypothermia conditions and not die? You know, how come her hair looks immaculately tailored even though I've just been through an entire war zone? You can't do the conceit of realism. It doesn't work. It is a fundamentally flawed argument. Yet, there it is, you know? It's weird. And that's something I haven't spoke about, which I probably should. The outfits on this game. Ooh, this is it, guys. This is where I swapped my controller. This is the first difficult shootout of the game, because the cover's shit. So I move over here, and the first thing I do is I start trying to click these guys, and I'm going to be pulling down. Do you see those bindings on the wooden pillars? That means you can pull them down with the arrows. So that's what you want to do, and you want to trim this area as quick as possible. One thing to bear in mind, you can get flanked here from your left. If that happens, you're going to go immediately to one shot because they hurt you that much. But the sequence is pretty short. It's a couple of dudes here, and then there's a firefight against some armoured guys, and I'm going to show you just how powerful these poison arrows are, because we're going to take out our first encounter with heavily armoured fellas in a second, which you would think it wouldn't work that way. And that's another thing to discuss, actually, folks. I'm playing this game unpatched. This is the way the game first came out, and that's how I've played it. I haven't downloaded the patch because of my internet. 100% that's the reason. It's nothing to do with any of the changes. I don't know what the changes are. I tried to look them up and I couldn't find any. But whatever the patch tweaked, you will not see it in this, because this is 100% unpatched. This is the raw vanilla version of the game. The patch itself is 970 megabytes. If I were to download that, it would take me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So the very reason why I don't have it is that. Every time I turn this game on and I want to play, it's, you've got to fucking update. And I don't want to sit for an hour to play a game. I want to play a game. That's why I bought a machine that plays games and instead didn't just open up a fucking WinRAR file and watch a bar go up. So that's why I didn't do it. And I've got a couple of theories on what I think they might have patched, because I noticed something on my recording run that I never saw on my first run, and that was enemies disappearing. And you're not going to see this until 2/3 through the game. But it gets to a point, and I have no idea why, but people start disappearing when I'm fighting them. It's weird. But here is the heavy. You'll notice he's got an assault rifle, he's got a helmet on, and he's wearing body armor. But it doesn't mean a single fucking thing, because the poison arrow goes through everything. So if I fire this next to him, he is going to be fucked. And there's nothing he can do. So I throw 2 of these to kill the stragglers, and then I'm going to fire my arrow at this guy and his buddies. So there goes his buddies. He moves over there into cover, I adjust, and then I kill him. And then you're done. Lara's going to stand up. There it was, and we've won. So do you see how incredible those arrows are? And I've just made 2 more of them. They take anybody down in that cloud in 1 hit. It's absolutely insane. And unless the patch has patched them, they're still the best choice of beating this game, because you can make a lot of them, and if you're missing some mushrooms, just walk back to one of those big areas and explore some caves, and you'll surely find some. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But as I was saying, sorry, before this kicked off, enemies disappear. In certain firefights, you'll notice I shoot a guy with a shotgun, he recoils, and then he vanishes. There's one moment where I fire a poison arrow at a big fella, and he vanishes before the arrow goes off. And then there's also a stealth section where I kill one guy on the left, I kill one guy on the right, and then the 2 people next to him disappear. It just doesn't make sense. And every time this happened, I restarted Checkpoint to try and do it without them disappearing, because I don't want to use a strategy where some random bullshit wins and it's not something you can replicate. And every time I did it again, the same thing happened. So it's just one of those things. I think that'll probably be patched, so if you want it for whatever bizarre reason, just turn the game off, delete your patch and play offline, and you can have that wonderfully weird disappearing enemy thing.
Jacob,
but in those circumstances when my enemies do disappear, you have all the tools in the world to deal with them, and I'm going to show you all the best approaches in how to do so you're not going to have any additional challenge. But it's certainly strange. But if I can figure out what the patch did, because I'm going to download it probably tonight, I'll leave my console on while I watch a film or something, and I'll have it doing it in the background, and hopefully it'll get it done. And it's quite ironic because I've been looking into upgrading my internet for quite some time, and I was talking to a provider the other day, and I was literally ready to hand over my direct debit details, everything sorted, get it installed a couple of days later, and have better internet and start streaming and all the benefits of better internet. And then when he went to do the check on my house before we went and put everything through, they do not have cables in my area. So I'd done 99% of the setup process for getting better internet, which was going to recommend that I get close to, I think, 40 megabyte download, and I think it was 10 upload, and it was looking amazing, and I was really excited, and I was going to put a video up telling people that I got good internet and all the new changes that was going to come from it. And then that happened, and the guy apologized, and he said, you know, we'll still be here kind of deal, and when you come through, when they do have it in your area, but at the moment they don't. And it was just the most gut-wrenching feeling, because now I have to look for another provider. But it sucks, guys, it really does. Never underestimate the ability to get good internet. It's so empowering. But here we go, standard Tomb Raider fare, where everything's blowing up and splitting and you have to run, and it's all exciting, but at the end of the day, all you're doing is hopping over gaps. You're essentially playing Frogger, it's just a lot more pretty, and you get to stare at Lara's ass if you want to do that, which in some of these outfits, she's got a pretty good bottom, gotta give her that. And I mentioned the outfits fleetingly, but there are some really cool ones. You're not going to see me wear any of them. I'm going to wear all the standard ones. I'm not going to unlock any of the cool ones, but I like that they've given you the ability to swap her outfits, because it makes it feel like a progression. It really does. But jump onto this wire, go all the way down here, and this is pretty much the end of the video, guys. So thank you for watching, and you take care now.